Top 3 reasons why intermittent fasting works for me. Not even intermittent fasting, more of a time restricted eating, making sure you're eating within a particular restricted time window. Fasting would be, longer duration, anything over about 24 hours. But I'm more talking about making sure that you stop eating at a certain time and you start eating at a certain time. Now, this is my personal experience. Of course, you would have heard a lot of benefits like fat loss, autophagy. All of these things are important, but not necessarily intermittent fasting is the only way to help you get there. If you stay in a caloric restricted state, if you're making sure your physical activity is high, you still lose weight. And autophagy can or cannot be reached with intermittent fasting, depending on what kind of fasting you choose and what kind of fasting window you choose. But what are the 3 things I've seen personally in terms of benefits when it comes to intermittent fasting? One of the most important one is food security. I remember a time when I was eating 5 meals a day and coming from a lot of, this bro science knowledge that you need to feed yourself every 2 hours and you need to eat proteins every 2 hours. And if you don't eat that, you'll die. No, that does not happen. And really, you do not need to eat meals so frequently. What only happens by making sure your meal frequency is so high is that you're training your body to form a glucose spike up and down every few hours. Thus, if you don't get food, you suddenly have this low energy levels because there's a plummet of glucose levels in the body. Your body is anticipating foods and you've trained yourself to eat every 2 hours, but that's not healthy for you either. There have been some rat studies, elementary rat studies, which also show that eating too often versus eating limited 2 to 3 meals a day has been linked with certain types of cancers. Now, even if you keep the calories same, so even if you're eating exactly the same amount of calories divided in 2 versus 5 meals, the 5 meal group has more chance of cancers than 2 meals group. So developing food security is huge. So if you're someone who's used to eating every 2 hours and constantly thinking about food and thinking about what your next meal needs to be, that's not the best way to live life. You're not going to get time to do anything else. And eating 2 meals instead of 5 meals gives you the freedom of taking a little bit time of planning of food and thinking about other things. Plus, someone who likes to eat huge portions. So you're not someone who likes to eat like bite-sized pieces of things versus, sitting for a healthy full meal. Then having 2 meals a day gives you a little bit freedom in terms of increasing your portion sizes. So better insulin control, better blood glucose control, improved portion size, improving your relationship with food, and developing food security. You don't have to constantly worry that you'll run out of food, and this is a good place to operate from. Number 2, longevity. Now, when you go in a time restricted window, inevitably you end up eating slightly lesser calories, unless you're eating a lot of junk food, of course, and there is a possibility you could still eat more calories, but inevitably most of us end up eating lesser calories than you would if you gave yourself the freedom to eat whenever you want. Imagine if you didn't have a restriction on yourself, like let's say for me personally 7 p.m. is that restriction. I would not eat a meal after 7 p.m. unless once in a while I'm going out with friends or family. If I have that restriction, let's say I'm watching a movie at 10:30, but I've decided I won't eat a meal after 7 p.m., then I'm in a very secure place where I'm mentally decided that I'm not going to eat a meal. So even if people are eating junk around me, I'm not tempted to eat a few bites of that and a few bites of this. So you end up eventually eating lesser calories. Lesser calories has been linked to longevity. So if you're looking at longevity, living the longest, healthiest lives, then you want to make sure that you consume lesser than required calories throughout your life, but very nutritionally dense calories. This is only possible with a whole food plant-based diet, because a whole food plant-based diet is very, very rich in micronutrients and minerals, plus very high in volume and fiber. So even if you eat a lot of food, you really are not eating a lot of calories when you count calories. But staying in a slightly caloric restricted state has been shown to have improvements in terms of longevity. So I think time restricted eating also helps you with longevity, which is very, very important. Number 3, better mental clarity. Think about it. Now, in a fasted state, even biologically speaking, you have better brain function. And I'm going to talk about the science of why this happens a little bit later. But in a fasted state, you are more in a heightened state of awareness versus in a constantly fed state. Yeah, animal, a lion, for instance, will not hunt when it's already full. It's resting when it's full. So even if a deer passes by, it has no need to hunt because it's full and satisfied. The same thing with human. Fasted state triggers the release of particular proteins in the brain called brain derived neurotropic factors, BDNF. And BDNF production has been linked with increasing in memory and increasing in retention. So you learn better in a fasted state. Now, do I practice a full intermittent fasting or time restricted eating? Meaning, in my fasting window, I don't eat anything at all. I do allow myself herbal teas. I don't restrict myself from not eating at all. And I also drink a lot of water. And my fasting window is mostly from 7 p.m. to about 9 a.m. in the morning. So 7 to 9. I'm not saying this will work for everyone, but this is the fasting window which I follow. One of the most interesting books written in this regard is The Circadian Code, and this is written by Dr. Sachin Panda. And he's done a lot of research on time restricted eating. I think it's really worth exploring. And I think all of us are living in this world of overconsumption of food. There's food all the time and we're used to munching all the time. We shouldn't be living like that. We should be developing a lot more security around food, feeling okay that you don't have to worry about my next meal. And we live in a world of abundance. We are going to have more than enough food, so you don't have to constantly keep worrying about that. I have written very interesting blogs regarding this topic. If you want more information, click the link in the bio and you'll see more. Cheers, guys.